Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next Survival Game Guide episode in our Medieval Dynasty series. It's winter time, as you can see. We're freezing out here, but we're keeping it a little bit warm. We got our little, fur boots on and all that. And as you can see, I finally have the sewing huts unlocked and built and ready to use. So today's episode is going to be about the 3 best clothes that you can make, at least with the tier 1 version of the sewing hut. I will be doing another video later on to do the more advanced clothing that you can make with the hut. But today we'll just be going over basically the 3 best clothes for our beginner hut here. And how I've kind of set that up is essentially based on the different playthroughs. So if you are primarily like a farmer in this game, I have a clothing for you. If you are a hunter, I have a clothing item perhaps that you should focus on. And the same for our traders out there. So just to begin, we'll kind of go over what you need to unlock this guy. So we'll head into our technology. It's over here in production. You will need 100 points to unlock the sewing hut. So essentially, you'll just need to craft quite a few different, items, and eventually you will unlock this. And when you do, all these schemes will become available for purchase. Now, right off the bat, you're going to need to buy 2 things, which is linen thread and linen fabric. The good news about these 2 in particular is that they're not that expensive. They're both like 50 coins, so not terrible for that. But you need these 2 in order to make a good portion of the rest of these guys. So, just get those 2 done right off the bat as soon as you can. But besides that, let's kind of get into this a little bit more deeper here. For our farmers out there, I believe that the best kind of clothing perhaps that you should focus on is the flat straw hat, or the linen shirt up here. You guys kind of have 2 options. For those who have a lot of straw on hand, I would say, the flat straw hat, just use up that straw if you just have just a bunch just laying around. And the reason why we chose this one is because, for one, again, straw, right? Use it. Use it to make money. And it doesn't really require too much linen fabric either. Now, linen fabric, just to kind of get a little bit into the process here, you get that from the flax that you either grow or buy. So for our farmers out there, I would say, put down a pretty big field if you can of flax. And you'll have a lot of linen that you can make from that. But you'll take your flax, you'll go process it in the barn over there to make flax stock, I believe it's called. And then you'll come to this guy, or at least your worker will, and you can produce linen thread from your flax stock. You can see you need 10 per 1 linen thread. So, having a good large field of flax is rather ideal. Once you have your linen thread, you should save some because some of the resources do require thread. But the rest of that you're going to need to turn into the actual fabric, which you'll just take right here. You can see 1 thread per 1 fabric. So that ratio is a little bit nicer. So once you have that, you can come here and you can start crafting stuff. And there we go. Let's get back to our guy here. There we are. So our flat straw, you can see, you just need 30 straw and 1 linen fabric here. And, if you're processing flax, if you have a lot of other grains, like rye or wheat or whatever, you're going to have a lot of straw on hand. So it just kind of makes sense to, make the most of that and produce it into something that you can then sell. For a rather decent amount of coin, 130, that's not bad at all. Once you kind of have a really big field of flax, I would say you could potentially start turning towards linen shirts. You can use your straw for other stuff, or continue to even make both of these if you want. The linen shirt requires obviously a little bit more from the flax rather than just the straw. So you'll need 1 linen fabric and 3 linen thread to make these. Now they do sell for a lot more. That 270 coin is really nice. So if you have a few big fields of flax, you can produce quite a number of these and make a decent amount of coin from them, which is great. So for our farmers out there, either both of these or one of these are pretty good for you because you're growing like a really big field or fields of flax, right? So go for those. For our hunters out there, you might have like a smaller flax field perhaps because you're primarily focused on going out there and hunting and whatnot. So for our hunters, I suggest actually the fur capelet, I believe it's called. Because you're going to be first of all, you get a good amount of coin from it. You got 240 coin here, which is great. Another thing is the utility use. This is good to keep yourself warm during the winter. And once you're warm, you can start selling it, right? And the resources here aren't crazy, especially if you're a hunter. You just need it's 12 fur, and plus 2 linen thread per fur capelet. So if you're out there hunting, you can focus on the things that produce fur, like wolves and rabbits. I think foxes do as well. I might be wrong on that. But you can get like a really good amount of fur, or you can have your hunters themselves produce a lot of fur, and you can start cranking out these fur capelets a lot, and you get that 240 coin per, which is also really great. So if you're a hunter, I say perhaps focus on fur capelets at most. You can always try some of these other things, because there's a few of these that also, like this one, like just leather. If you're like in a bind. And you just have a lot of leather, you can produce a lot of shoes, and you could still make a pretty decent amount there. Not as much as, this guy, but, it's something, right? It's something in the bank. But, if you want to get the most out of it, and you just want to focus on something to, make it super efficient, I would say focus on the fur capelet. And for our traders out there, you guys are, I would hope anyway, you have your fingers in a little bit of everything. You maybe have like a decent sized field, you have perhaps some animal husbandry going on. Because of that, you might have some more resources available. So for those guys, I have to say you guys got to go right for either the saddle here or the small saddlebag. I would say for those who are kind of like beginners, you might not be ready to make the saddle just yet, so maybe perhaps go for the small saddlebags. For one, because you yourself can get use out of it. You can use this with your mount if you have a mount available. But it also sells pretty well, and the resources aren't quite as crazy as what is needed for the saddle here. So for our small saddlebag, you'll need 12 leather, 1 tin bar, and 2 linen thread. So you could have a relatively smallish flax field and still have a decent amount to start producing these guys. You are going to need to visit the mine, or if you have the mine unlocked, have your people focusing on getting tin, and then having somebody in the smithy, or you yourself, producing tin bars out of the tin ore. And then you're going to need your hunters out there kind of focusing on leather as well. And all that together can give you some small saddlebags, again, for not a decent amount of coin. Once you start to perhaps get a few more workers under your direction, you can then shift to the saddle, and that's because the saddle sells for an amazing amount, like 480, plus or minus, again, your trading bonus per your skills. So that's pretty great, right? If you pump some of your skills to kind of like get more money from your sales, you'll be making potentially more than 480. So that's really amazing. Now, obviously, it does require a few more resources. You need 2 linen fabric, 2 wool thread, 2 tin bar, and then 12 leather. So essentially you'll need some more tin bars. You also need this wool thread, which means you are going to need to have sheep available, because that is where you get them. You can obviously always buy it if you have the funds to do so, but it's a little bit cheaper if you just have your own animal producing it for you. So once you have the sheep unlocked, perhaps you can start focusing on the saddle and making a lot of money with just, focusing laser point, right, on this product here. So that's really about it for like the 3 best clothing. I know it's a little bit technically more than like 3 clothing, but it's more of like a this or that or both if you can manage it. If your farm or your the rest of your huts or whatever are producing the amount of stuff that you need, you can potentially cover 2 maybe or 3, depending on how you have your little system set up. But that is primarily the ones that I suggest focusing on, depending on your playthrough. And you can always, again, mix and match, have your fun, right? So we'll kind of just go over into the process here of crafting some stuff. I'm a little bit more leaning towards farming this playthrough, as I kind of just tend to do generally. So I'm going to be making the flat straw hat. I have in my inventory the linen fabric. I have a little bit of that, obviously, and I have straw. So I'll just kind of go over, again, you take your flax here, produce linen thread, take your linen thread here, make the linen fabric, and then you come over here to actually produce what you need to produce. So we're doing the hats, so we're going to go to hats. There's our flat straw hat. We'll just craft that right there. Look at that. Look at him at work. He's doing great. Boom, there it is. So we now have our flat straw hat, which I'm apparently wearing one already, so go me. And it does provide some protection from the heat, so, you know, not a bad thing to wear in the summer if you want to. Otherwise, you know, just go send this right off to the market or to one of the villages and go sell it, right? But yeah, that's about it for our little sewing hut, beginner version, at least. I hope you found it helpful, and if you guys have any other suggestions or strategies, do leave it in the comments. I'd love to read it. I'd love for everybody else to read it too. But otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. But until then, keep surviving and keep thriving.